I'm Julia, I'm an artist, and I'm going to show you how to print today with printmaking. If you want to make art like this and reprint over and over again, this is the way to do it. How to carve, how to transfer, all of the whole process. You're basically carving a giant stamp, so it doesn't look the way that it looks when you print it. But you can print over and over and over with these, and they are all unique and individual prints, so you can sell them all. It's not like making a painting and then printing it like a giclée. These are all original. Here we have our pencil 8B or 6B, your carving tool. I'm going to do a separate video on that, on how to use that. 2 different types of linoleums. They also come with wood on the back if you want to get that. And you need your paper the same size as your linoleum. You're going to cover everything with the graphite pencil, the 6B or the 8B. Make sure it's shiny. That's how you can tell. Cut it out. Meanwhile, you are checking to make sure everything has been colored in. If your drawing is just in graphite, you're good to go. This is one way that you can do it. There are other ways I will show as well. You flip it upside down and you take like a spoon or something like that and you press it into the linoleum. And I find this way to be one of the fastest ways to transfer your drawings down. You want your drawing to be the way you want your print to turn out. So the orientation of your print, if you are transferring this way. You can use Scotch tape. Don't use masking tape, that won't work. Now you're going to take your ballpoint pen and you are going to rotate so you don't smudge everything up. And please use a ballpoint. No Sharpies, no felt tips, no microns. That will just kill your pen immediately. So use your ballpoint. Fill in everything that would be black ink. This is so that you know, as a beginner, exactly where you can carve and where you cannot carve. So there are a couple places that I didn't fill in because I was being lazy, and that's because I don't normally fill in the blacks because I've been doing it for a long time. So I can really pay attention to what is the design, what's not the design, where it's carved and where it's not carved. But please fill in the black if you are a beginner. You're going to want to have an image where you can see in the same orientation that you are carving. Here we have our tray. I have my tools. I like to have mine separate because I change them so often I don't have time to keep changing them. So now I'm going to do a little demo. I'm going to start by hooking it and then gliding. Hook, glide, if you do a short one or not. Now if the little linoleum shred is stuck in there, you can pick it out. It might leave a little pick end on the end, but it's totally fine to do that. Now moving on to my medium V. The blue one was a square tool, and that's just the way that I have my colors. Now if you dig down like this and you get chunks, that's not correct. So please do not do that. Then you can't maybe use the other side and it creates holes and then your linoleum is not as strong. But the tools should be really easy to glide. If not, then yours is a little rusty or new. Sometimes that happens when they're new. Now that you're done with your practice piece, you're gonna start carving on your regular linoleum. Please rotate again and don't put your hand in front of where you're carving. That's a big no-no. It is a blade, so it will hurt if you cut yourself, all right? So hook, glide, away from your body, away from other people, hook, glide. And I like to do the outsides, right? You're not going to do the black. You are definitely going to do the color of the linoleum. Sometimes it's pink, sometimes it's gray. So you're gonna hook, glide, and go around all of the blacks first, and then do the centers, which creates a nice little buffer for your carving. And here I just changed my tools in between, which is why I like to have different handles for the different tools, because I'm changing my tools like every 2 seconds. It would take me so long if I just had one handle. So I'm rotating my linoleum. I'm seeing what I can get from that angle as I rotate, and I can keep rotating and doing my border, which creates that nice little buffer so I can get the center without accidentally getting out some of my black. If you accidentally take away some of the black, you can't get it back. Some students used to ask me like, oh, well, can I like hot glue it in? No, you can't hot glue it in. If it's a little mistake, you might be able to fix it with the ink and a paintbrush. Here I went a little bit closer so that you could see. I'm doing lines. My technique is definitely unique to me because I do this style. but you are just going to go around all of your blacks, leaving your whites, and that is your basic rule. Please consider doing a practice piece. This is what it looks like close up. I recommend filling in everything black, like I could have filled in these squares black, if you are doing it in a classroom or if you're a beginner, because you want to see what is black and what's not black so you know what to carve. This is what you need to do your prints. You need some block printing ink. This one's by Speedball. They're my favorite brand for ink, just because I really like the consistency. And then if it dries out, you can add water and it's still just as great. I definitely recommend tubs more than I do like the tubes that you squeeze, because you know you can't like get to the center or you have to cut it open. With this, you can get to the edges and use it all. You know, I use a little jar opener because they get really stuck on. So that I feel like is kind of a necessary thing. You can have a brayer this size, or you can have longer brayers. I prefer this. I feel like the longer ones sometimes miss ink in the middle depending on how flat your linoleum is. Popsicle stick, I've been using the same one for, I don't know, 6 months. So I just always wash those and reuse them. And then sometimes if it's kind of cold where I am, or like right now I'm under the air conditioning, I have a little spray bottle just to keep the ink moist so that it doesn't dry out. It's harder to do printmaking in the elements. So if you have like heat and if you have wind, then it's gonna be harder. So I know a lot of us use our garages to do art. So just make sure, you know, if you have your fan on in there because it's hot, turn off your fan for the printing process, or go inside, or maybe turn off your air for a little bit when you're inside. Right now it's really hot outside because I live in Southern California, so nope, turning off the air for me. When you open this, a bunch of little dried crusties will come out, the dried ink on the side, which is the #1 thing that creates bubbles in your printing. So make sure you open this not over your printing surface, or clean your printing surface afterwards. I like to use these trays, whether you are doing this for yourself or in your classroom. I like to use these cafeteria trays because they can wash up really easily. You can contain everything, and I just find it easier that way. So if you are a teacher, I recommend these. If you're a single person, I recommend these as well, because you can kind of just keep everything on the tray and then put it back where it goes. So let's start. Here I have my other tray, and if you are just doing this at home, you don't have to worry about different colors. But for kids, if you're a teacher, it's really great to have different colored trays so that, you know, you have your carving trays and then you have your inking trays, and then everything just stays nice and neat. Can anyone guess the eye? Whose eye is this? One of our favorite ladies. All right, so I'm gonna put this tray aside, and you definitely wanna make sure that all the little linoleum shreds are off of here, because otherwise you're gonna get bumps in your printing. So I'm gonna inspect it and make sure that all the little shreds are out. There's nothing that's still attached. See, one of them just fell out. You just kind of go like this. Sometimes people are really scared to touch their linoleum. The ones that I buy are pretty sturdy. You don't want to like be crazy with it and scrub it with a scrub brush. So again, make sure your tray is clean and clear of any little dots of ink, shreds of linoleum. When you start doing larger pieces of linoleum, you cannot fit your linoleum and your ink on the tray at the same time, so you can just use the tray for the ink, is what I do for my pieces that are larger. But for kids, if you're doing this with a class or you have small pieces, you can put your linoleum right here on the tray next to it. I'm going to open my ink, again, not over the tray, right? Because that has little crusties that fly off. A little crusty just flew off, even though I already opened it and like shook it over the sink, right? So now I'm going to grab some ink. For students, I always recommend going lower, like saying a smaller amount, because they use more. So I always say, like, if it's a new tray and there's no ink, then you do like a nickel size. If there's already ink there, then use a dime. You probably are going to use a little bit more, but just to start. So I take it with my popsicle stick, and I smear it on the other side or drop it on the other side. And then I teach people to put the ink, stick it onto the side like this so that the end stays clean. That's important so that you don't have to keep washing your hands over and over again. Okay, but I'm a pretty clean artist. I know some people aren't. It's totally fine to be a messy artist. You just have to wash your hands. Okay, so then I always teach to look at your hands, right, before you touch your brayer, because if you spread the ink, then it's going to be on the next thing and on the next thing and on the next thing. So now I'm going to hold my tray and I'm going to roll vertically and horizontally. Vertically and horizontally. And it sounds like this brayer needs a little WD-40, but that's all right. It's all a part of the process. And do you hear the noise besides the squeakiness? It's sticky, right? Like macaroni and cheese is what I always say. And so I rolled it into a little rectangle, and then I look at my brayer. If everything is smooth on here and everything is smooth on here, then I'm ready to move to my linoleum. Now I'm going to roll from the bottom to the top and lift. You don't want to lift, you can go back and forth like this, but you don't, and then dip back into your ink. You don't want to stop in the middle because it leaves a little line there. Okay, so dip back into your ink and roll back onto here. Of course I had to choose the only squeaky brayer to film the video because that's just real life. So once I have the whole thing, so you're going to go from corner to corner, horizontally and vertically, corner to corner, lifting at the end, right? I'm doing it dramatically because I'm a dramatic person, but also to show you to lift up. Okay, and then I always say, put your brayer handle on the corner of the tray right here so that it doesn't get ink on it. Sometimes if you're not paying attention, we'll just drop it into here and then the brayer handle is dirty and now you have to wash your hands again. It takes time to clean and then your ink's getting dry and all of that. So we just don't want blobs everywhere. So we're rolling out really nice. So our brayer is smooth and you're going horizontally and vertically. You can get to know your ink, the brand, how much you'll need, what you like to do as far as how you roll it, but definitely horizontally, vertically, edges, lift up and sweep at the end. Those are essential. Now I have my linoleum that totally is covered in ink, and I'm going to carefully lift it from the edges, or you can leave it on the tray. It's up to you. It's up to how you want to do your art or run your class. The ink looks nice on there. Again, I have the air conditioning above me, so I don't know if it's going to turn out kind of dry, but you don't have to be embarrassed if you do a print and it doesn't turn out the way that you wanted to, because guess what? You can do another print. It's okay. And also you should have the back side of the paper, so if you mess up on the front side, we're not wasting a piece of paper. You can always collage prints that you didn't like. Sometimes your ink is going to be a little bit more dry that day, or maybe it's an older ink. Maybe it needs a little bit more water in there, mix it up. Just add a little bit at a time though. When I taught art, high school level, I had like all the colors of inks because it's so fun to see like what color ink they choose and what color paper they choose. So that's super fun. But here I have this opalescent white paper. Now you want to decide horizontal, right, or landscape versus vertical or portrait. And the way that you want to line it up is a little bit at the top and a little bit more at the bottom if you can. Lining it up takes practice. It can be sideways and still look good, right? You can even cut it out if you want, leave room for the signature if possible for the traditional aspect of printmaking, but it's just all good. All the art looks good. As long as they follow the directions, or as long as you do the project, right, and try the technique, then your art is probably going to be good. and no one can tell you that your art is bad because it's your art and they have nothing to do with it. It's for you. So I'm going to do my portrait. So I always would tell my students, and I would tell you, to hover, right? And what I like to do is I like to line it up like it's a ruler underneath and see how much is on this side and see how much is on this side, right? And visually do that. Then I do it at the bottom just to kind of get my spacing. I do it on this side, okay? And then I just guess. And I drop it down. Once it's down, it's down. You cannot pick it up and try again. Okay? And then I always say check your hands, because if you want to use the other side of the paper and save the planet a little bit, you want to have clean hands for that. That's why the stick is important, why the brayer is important, to keep that stuff clean. Okay? And then you press to stick and hold with one hand, roll with the other, is what I always say. And corner to corner. Okay? They do have little like pressers, like burnishers or whatever they're called, but I didn't like to use those because they would pick up ink. Like kids would accidentally get ink on them, and then they'd smear ink on the next kids, or even if the ink was dry, it would kind of smear old ink on the back of their paper. So I like to use fingers, plus I feel like fingers, it gives the human touch, and you can get to little grooves that even though it's a cushy little tool, it's not going to get to where your fingers can get, because your fingers can go into different grooves. So get all of the nooks and crannies in there, and all the way around the edges. Once you have what you think is ready and all done, then you're going to peel off from one corner. Here we have a lot of different sheets of paper, and I am printing them and inking in between. I'm just not showing the inking in between because you've seen me ink already a few times. And this just shows you each one is unique. Each one is a different piece of art. It's Lucille Ball, by the way. They all look different. I mean, this one looks kind of like psychedelic because it's kind of smeared a little bit in a circular motion. It's glossier, I guess, when I was rolling. This one looks pretty precise, good amount of ink. I'll do a separate video on imperfections you could have and why in your printing. This one is more weathered, but again, I really still like that look. If you like printmaking and you want to try it, make sure to grab those tools. You can get it from your local art store. I would recommend going local first, of course, but then other places like Michael's, Blick is a great place to go. They will have these supplies too. If you're in my area, definitely go to Graphades. That's my favorite art store. And you guys are gonna make some really cool stuff. It can be any design that you want. Just make sure that you're doing your own work, not copying someone else, so that we can all stay individual, amazing artists and beauties. I had a lot of fun. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did enjoy this video, please like it and follow for more tips on making art or teaching your students art. Thanks so much. Bye.